Yo guys, it's your friend from ninjavibeZ, back again with another awesome Naruto What-If story that'll blow your mind. What if Naruto and Kakashi formed a mighty harem together after Sakura's Heartbreak Part 1? And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Nar, will you slow the freak down? Shish, yelled Sakura. The team was on their way home from another attempt to bring Sasaki back to Konoha and therefore back to his senses. Nar was leading the team through the trees, all his senses on high alert. They had already had 3 run-ins with Sasaki and his new team, but each time Sasaki had gotten away when his team had interfered and allowed him to escape them. Nar didn't bother to even show he had heard her. He just kept leaping through the trees, trusting Kakashi and Yamato to keep the group moving along behind him as he turned his head from side to side, using all his senses to watch for anyone that might be tracking their movement. He was almost hoping Sasuke's group would decide to attack them again. He was itching for a good fight after what Sakura had done to them that morning. Sai was using his ink creations to keep a lookout to the right of the group. And Yamato-sensei, someone who had joined them as a permanent member when Naruto returned from his training trip with Jiraiya, was doing the same, only using a wood clone instead of ink to their left. Kakashi brought up the rear of the party and was keeping an eye on their back trail. He was also struggling to keep control over his temper. He also knew what Sakura had done to the group in the early hours of the morning. He wasn't as angry as Nar was, but then he also hadn't invested as much of his time and effort into the girl as Nar had. When Jiraiya had returned to the village with Nar, he had gone straight to the council and told them all off for the way they were trying to manipulate and destroy Nar and exactly what would happen should they ever succeed in their endeavors. Then he had laid out the changes that would be made in Naruto's living conditions, that were only necessary because they were a bunch of ignorant fools who thought, because they did not understand something, that gave them the right to treat it as if it were insignificant. Yamato had joined Team 7 to aid Nar in keeping the Kyobi contained, and Nar had moved in with Kakashi since he needed the companionship the silver-haired ninja would give him without judging him. Kakashi had always seen Nar as himself and the demon as the demon. The two had never been one and the same to him, and he knew Nar did not wish to give in to the demon and his failing seal. But the council had set so much up for him to deal with. Containing it was more difficult than anyone believed. But by believing in him and letting Nar know he believed in him, Kakashi could help him contain it unless Naruto was fighting. And that was why Yamato was on the team. Yamato's bloodline allowed him to trap Nar in his Kyobi form until Nar could force the demon back behind the seal. Sakura was the only one of the team who did not understand the changes that had occurred in her team. She thought she was the important one to the team now and to the council as well. She did not understand the team was designed around what Nar needed in a team. She knew Sai was a replacement for her precious Sasaki and was not therefore a valid member of the team, as he would leave as soon as Naruto kept his promise to her to return Sasaki to the village. But she honestly thought Yamato was only there because the council did not trust Naruto to defend her. As far as Nar living in Kakashi's house, she honestly thought and the council did not know the truth of the relationship between the two. In her mind, Kakashi was using Naruto because Naruto didn't know any better. To her, the only real reason Kakashi was using Naruto was to make sure Naruto did as he told him to do when they had a mission and remembered his promise to return Sasuke. She simply could not believe Naruto was actually important to Kakashi. She honestly believed Kakashi missed Sasaki as much as she did and wanted the drool-worthy boy back safe and sound in the village, the same way she did. Sasaki had been Kakashi's favored student before Naruto let him get that awful bite on his neck and then just let him run off following the whispers of a deranged man. Sakura simply could not believe Kakashi did not want his protege back again. Normally, the team showed a great deal of patience with the pink-haired girl since everyone else on the team knew Nar protected her and anyone Nar protected. It was a bad idea to mess with. A very bad idea. Even the Hokage and the council knew to leave alone anyone who had Naruto's protection. But for now, the team was leaping through the forest on their way home from a long drawn-out mission. The only one not scouting her surroundings was Sakura, and she would be the only one taken by surprise should the group have another confrontation with her would-be boyfriend. But she was also the only one who could not seem to understand. Sasuke did not want to return to Konoha and would fight them every step of the way. All he wanted was to kill Naruto every time they encountered him. It was for this reason that Sakura always traveled in the center of their formation. She never thought to scan her surroundings for trouble. But for now, all Naruto did was turn his head slightly without looking at her in reply. G-man Sakura, I thought you would prefer to sleep in a real bed tonight and have a real bubble bath for a change. If we keep moving at this pace, we will reach Hosoto in that hotel with the scented beads for you. Erosen said they just got a new shipment of oils for the massage room, too. I thought you'd like to have time to give it a try before we have to be back in the village. He turned his head in the other direction, scanning his environment slowly as he did so. Oh, a new oil. That would be nice, Nar. But sheesh. Can't we take a break? She asked. Not if you want to buy the beads for your bath before the little shop closes, Nar said. I do know how much you like to relax in a full tub of sweet-smelling bubbles after a long mission. He did try to hide the sneer in his voice, but for anyone who knew him, the insult he had just given her was clear. Yamato knew Nar was angry with Sakura, and he had picked up on the insult Naruto had given the girl, but he didn't know why Nar was angry with her. He started trying to think of things he could do to smooth things over and calm the angry blonde down. An angry Naro was one of the most fearsome sights anyone ever wanted to see. For allies, it always meant pranks from hell until the person he was angry at figured out what they did and either fixed it or apologized. Best off if you did both. For enemies, it meant you were going to die horribly and painfully. Either way, it wasn't a good thing. Sai, for his part, took the words at face value. He knew Nar was angry with Sakura by the simple fact that Nar had not immediately dropped his speed for the girl and would not look at her at all. Like Yamato, he did not know why Naruto was angry with Sakura. Unlike Yamato, he knew Naruto was not the only person in the group who was angry with the pink girl. And that was a very strange conundrum since reading human emotions was not Sai's strong point. But nonetheless, Sai knew Kakashi was almost as angry with Sakura as Nar was, though he held his anger closer to the vest, so to speak. Ouch. Kakashi thought as he mentally sighed. Kakashi had known Nar knew what Sakura had done during her watch, but he had hoped Nar would let it slide as he had let so much else slide where she was concerned. Kakashi and Naruto shared a tent, so he knew the teen was always awake during Sakura's watches, which had surprised him at first as he came to realize Nar never let Sakura handle her own shift. He didn't trust her to keep awake during her shift or aware, and with good reason, it seemed. For that matter, There was very little Naruto did trust Sakura to do. He even went so far as to create shadow clones to gather herbs or firewood if that was the camp chore given to her, knowing she would only come back with a handful of sticks and twigs or pretty flowers if left to do it on her own. It was during these times though that Kakashi had grown to see what a good ninja and friend Naruto really was. Together they had sat up many a night, either discussing the plans for their present mission or discussing training methods, which with Naruto usually meant talking about a new jutsu he was working on, or reaffirming their vows as life partners in a chastied manner. Both were too professional to actually have sex in the field unless it was a part of the mission parameters. More than one ninja had met their death that way because they were caught off guard and defenseless and their team did not take missions where having would be required. The council had tried to force it once, but Jiraiya had caught wind of it and paid them another visit. Kakashi didn't know what he said or did to them, but the subject was dropped and had never been brought up again. But during those long quiet nighttime hours, Kakashi had also learned why Naruto wore his bright orange suit and threw himself into the midst of every battle. It had surprised him too. No, he only did it because he knew of everyone in the group, he was the one who could best withstand the physical onslaught of their enemies. So he did everything he could to make sure the enemy focused on him. Even if people like Sakura thought it made him stupid, at least she was alive to think so. Nar knew he could take punishing blows that would leave the rest of them fighting for their lives and unable to defend themselves. And his ability to massively spam solid clones allowed him to engage multiple enemies all at the same time, while his seemingly inexhaustible supply of chakra allowed him to keep the clones coming until the enemy was worn out. This allowed the rest of the group to surround their enemies in order to pick them off one by one. The only time a new strategy was needed was if the enemy got lucky and found the real McCoy. Then they would have to wade into the battle to free Naruto from the conflict until the enemy lost sight of him, which sounded really strange for a ninja in bright neon orange until you remembered his clones were also wearing bright neon orange. Battles involving Naruto often resembled nothing so much as an orange grove during a high wind storm with sound effects, but he did keep his team alive and healthy enough to underscore at him the next day. But last night, Sakura had gone too far, and it appeared Naruto was still very angry with her for it. Usually, he was quick to forgive her no matter what she had done. All it took was a complaint from her, and he would slow down and swallow his anger. But not this time. This time she needed to do a lot more than whine and complain if she wanted him to get over what she'd done. Not that she would. Kakashi sneered mentally. To do anything actually productive and conductive toward team harmony, she had to first be aware she was tearing the team apart because he was angry with her. Years of dealing with these two told Kakashi she would not realize it until someone, probably several someones, pointed it out to her. Then she would spend days denying he had any cause to be angry with her and trying to force him into realizing he was out of line before finally settling down and attempting to sweet-talk him out of his anger. But it wouldn't be until after she found that would not work that she would actually think about what she'd done to tick him off and actually try to make it right. She would apologize then. But Kakashi knew Nar was well aware of why she would actually apologize and knew the blonde knew she didn't actually mean a word she would say then. But he would let the anger go, knowing she wouldn't make the same error again. And yet she wouldn't actually ever learn from it either. Granted, none of them had Naruto's stamina or his true speed. But he didn't normally try to kill his teammates with them either. However, Kakashi didn't feel stressed by their current speed. He didn't feel the least little bit strained, winded, or tired. But then, Yamato, Sai, and he were all exam. They were used to going fast when they traveled. Kakashi did a mental calculation. No, Nar wasn't going all that fast right now. In fact, he seemed to be moving slower than normal. Even Sakura should have realized they weren't moving that quickly right now. What was she up to? Kakashi wondered. He pondered the situation for a few minutes before it came to him. She wanted to stop to give someone time to catch up to them. His eyes narrowed and his anger spiked as he realized who she thought would catch up to them. She actually thought that bastard would catch up to the team, and Kakashi knew exactly why she would think so. His spike of anger caught Sai and Yamato's attention and he signaled them to increase their watchfulness. Kakashi sent Naruto a signal to pick up the pace. Nar nodded, noting both Sai and Yamato had caught the signal as well. If she had set them up, she would live just long enough to regret it, Kakashi vowed as he increased his own awareness. She wouldn't be the first teammate he deliberately made disappear for such behavior. There was only one reason now why Sasaki would desire her to delay the team, and damned if he was going try again to kill Naruto for his damned dojutsu. Once sure their trail was clean, he let his thoughts go back to his partner. But it wasn't Naruto's speed or his refusal to stop for a rest that told Kakashi how angry Naruto was over what Sakura had done. It was the fact that he had not looked at the girl once all day, as well as the words he said to her. He also knew Sakura was not nearly as smart as everyone thought she was. After 5 years of being Naruto's teammate and 4 more years as his classmate, plus the years they had known each other before the academy, you would think the girl would know the boy well enough to know when he was telling her she was a useless traitorous but she didn't. The group traveled on with a constant stream of complaints coming from Sakura about the speed at which they were traveling, and none of which Nar or any of the guys listened to. Even when they took a short break for a cold lunch, Sakura did not cease her steady stream of complaints over the speed they were traveling. She tried to convince Kakashi and then Yamato to stop for the day and set up the tents, claiming they could all use the break. In her eyes, they were the senior members of the team, and Naruto was taking too much on himself in forcing them in to keep traveling when she didn't see the need. Because she thought she was smarter than Naruto, as well as more capable and important, she just couldn't see how either Kakashi-sensei or Yamato Teiko could take his side over hers. She claimed they were ahead of schedule and could afford to take their time getting home, so why not rest a little? It didn't work. And when Naruto hitched his pack a little higher on his back, everyone except Sakura fell into place around him. They moved out. As the last of the group, Kakashi prodded her into movement while she griped at him for letting Naruto take charge like he was. He gave her a single warning in a very flat voice that held not an ounce of give to get her butt in gear or he'd leave her behind. She moved, not trusting him not to do exactly as he said he would. The rest of the afternoon passed in much the same manner as the morning had. Sakura kept trying to slow them down, but everyone ignored her complaints and kept up the pace. She'd even tried to fake a twisted ankle to force them to stop for the day. Yamato just made a wood clone to carry her instead so she wouldn't hold them up. He told her, "I'll carry you so you can rest your ankle, and when we get to the hotel, you can have the masseuse massage it for you. You'll be able to walk on it by tomorrow. The guy is good with legs. By the time he's done, you'll feel so good, you'll forget it was ever injured in the first place." She simply muttered a no thanks to him, and walked on, showing no sign of injury. As Yamato canceled the clone, she didn't see anyone smirking as she walked on in her spot of the formation. Towards day's end, Kakashi had realized every single complaint was being met with a slight increase in Naruto's speed, which the rest of them had unconsciously agreed to match, and thereby forced her to meet as well. They were actually jogging now at a slow trot, and Kakashi knew it would continue until either they reached no Sadto or Sakura grew too winded to complain. They did reach no Sato just after sunset, and Sakura, who did little to work on her stamina, was sweaty and gasping for air as they checked in. But they all noticed she made a beeline for the little boutique with its wide variety of scented lotions and oils, all the while holding her side as if she were in serious pain. They had run the last mile at a full jog, and all the guys felt good for being able to actually stretch their legs on the run. She didn't even wait to check in herself and get the key to her own room. Sai had to take it to her since Nar handed it to him and inclined his head towards the shop. Normally in a team like this, the younger two men would share a room while the older two did also or got their own rooms. But Nar had told Kakashi point blank he wouldn't even consider sharing a room with Sai, who was, in his opinion, strange. Not that Kakashi had ever had any intention of sharing a room with Yamato nor Yamato with him. Both older men knew the other had a relationship with one of the younger pair. So, Yamato shared with Sai instead, which suited them just fine. Sakura got her own room. Not only would it be inappropriate for her to share with the guys when it wasn't necessary, none of them wanted to listen to her any longer than necessary, and she found reasons to criticize all of them whenever it wasn't possible for them to have separate rooms, or when the danger or risk was too high, she would have to bunk in with one of the pairs of guys if there wasn't a large enough room for them to bunk together as a group. She usually chose to share with Sai and Yamato, claiming she didn't really need to see her sensei molesting her teammate. That comment had both Kakashi and Yamato snickering behind her back. Sakura didn't know it, but Kakashi was the straight adult in their group, while Yamato was involved in a semi-open relationship with Sai. But tonight, it wasn't an issue since the hotel actually had 3 open rooms for them. Nar went straight to the room he would share with Kakashi. Kakashi followed as soon as he knew everyone was signed in and had their key. He dropped his pack once he had shut the door. He noticed Naro had already taken off his jacket and shirt and laid down on the double-wide bed. Kakashi walked over, divesting himself of his shirt, mask, and vest as well. Hino Sato was a safe hotel for Konoha ninja, and the manager had set up an alarm system to let any visiting ninja know of any problems they might need to be aware of. The manager tried to make sure Konoha ninja were well cared for within his establishment, knowing their lives were often short and brutal. But it was because of them and the work they did that men like him could live as well as they did in relative security. So Kakashi resigned himself to the task of settling Naruto's anger down so it would not overwhelm the teen before they could reach the village. He opened the nightstand and pulled out the massage oil the hotel provided for all their guests. He climbed on the bed and settled himself on Naruto's butt. He poured some on Naruto's back and set to work kneading the knots out of Naruto's muscles. Once he sensed Nar had relaxed some, he said, "Relax, Nar, you need to keep it cool until we get home." "I know. She just makes me so angry." "Yeah, well, at least she might get the rest she spent the day claiming she needs now. For sure, she'll visit the masseuse. Maybe he can take away her tension and frustration. You know, he's really just a spy, Kashi." "Why would you think that?" "Because that's not all he is. Yamato is correct. He is good with his hands and he will give her what she is wanting. Nar lifted his head and peered back at Kakashi questioningly. He's not just a spy, Nar. He's also a _. He works in the information trade, but he does so as a masseuse. So, he really does know how to give a good massage as well as anything else his clients need. His posting here is mainly to see what information he can pick up for Konoha, and the manager knows that. So, the masseuse has his own quarters here in the inn. He still takes care of Konoha Ninja when we stop in, but anything we say while with him goes no further than his ears unless he feels the nin's lips are too loose. Then he will inform the Hokage what was said and by whom, but that's all he'll tell. Kakashi leaning forward to massage Naruto's neck muscles. His groin rubbed against Naruto's rear and almost caused him to moan, but he bit it back. It had been a long mission and he was really wanting to get back home now. Instead, he continued to work on Naruto's muscles until the teen fell asleep. Then, Kakashi recapped the oil before putting it back in the drawer of the stand just in case Sakura did not take all the little bottles. The manager kept track of what types of oils and lotions the customers used so he would have the right and most popular choices on hand for them when they came again. Then he slid to Naruto's side and wrapped his arms around the blonde. It had taken him some time to wrap his mind around sleeping this close to Naruto while knowing he was straight in his own preferences. But they had been together for a long time now and he was used to it. He thought as he snuggled into the teen's warmth and drifted into sleep. One thing about sleeping next to Nar, the boy was always warm and he would share that body heat with whoever was lying next to him so long as that person was not a threat to him. After a night in no Sado, where true to Naruto's taunts, Sakura got her scented bubble bath, the team left the small village with Sakura's complaints ringing in their ears. She wanted to stay and shop a little bit since they were not scheduled to return quite yet. Though both Naruto and Kakashi had lost some of their anger against the Pinkett, she brought it all back with her steady stream of morning complaints. First, she complained of the hour she had been roused from her bed. Then, she complained over the poor quality of the food that was served to her, though the waitress had told her the fruit compost she wanted was preserved instead of fresh, since it was currently out of season. Then she complained because Kakashi and Nar as well as Sai and Yamato had already checked out of their rooms while she had lingered over her breakfast. Nar and Sai had actually checked her out, forcing her to finish and get her things packed before the maid went in to clean her room. Or worse, Sai did her packing for her. Nar headed straight for the village entrance and the road towards Konoha. By this time, even Yamato had picked up on the fact that Kakashi was just as angry with the Pinkett as Naruto was. Both Yamato and Sai were biased as to just what the girl had done to tick the normally calm pair off, since both Naruto and Kakashi were well known for their patience with her and their tolerance with her shrewish temper. But neither were inclined to hang around the small village either, just because she wanted to shop. They knew she had taken the oils from their rooms as well as any other products left in the nightstands of their rooms for the customers' enjoyment. She had already commented on the fact that Kakashi had made use of the massage oil from his room. He'd just looked at her and said, "Are you sorry I didn't call you into watch? Or is it that you think you can get a massage while on a mission, but no one else is entitled to do the same?" He tapped the side of his nose, daring her to deny she had gotten a massage as well. While Yamato hid a grin, Sai pretended to be offended at not being called into watch if Sakura was. She narrowed her eyes as a flush of anger stole its way into her cheeks. She actually had the nerve to tell Kakashi maybe I should show Shishui this bottle from your room. I doubt she'll believe either of you just gave the other a simple massage. Nar may be an idiot, but she cares about him. And when she finds out how you are perverting him, I want to go shopping here before we leave, sensei. And if you want to keep your play toy, you will let me. Personally, I don't care what you have to do to keep that baka on the job. But she does. And if I have to tell her you are perverting her so-called little brother, she won't be very happy with you. So go find a place to sit down and wait until I am done shopping. She started to walk off but stopped to look over her shoulder and say, oh, and you might want to call him to heel since we both know we aren't going anywhere until I say we are. Yamato and Sai followed Nar, not wanting to witness what Kakashi would do to the uppity girl. Sakura stood there smirking, thinking she had won. She was therefore more than a touch frightened when he grabbed her arm and threw her towards the village entrance. He growled at her. I led. You follow. Now or I will write you up for dereliction of duty. Within an hour of rising, they were on their way home. Yamato had told Sai in a whisper to do what he could to keep the Pinkett from annoying either of the other two any more than she already had. Otherwise, one of the two was likely to kill her before they got her home again. Kakashi kept his eye on Naruto all that day. He knew the idiotic comments she had made about the opened oil bottle had set his temper dangerously close to the flash point. And he knew Nar had heard the comments. Naruto had not been that far ahead of the main body of the group when Sakura tried her little bit of blackmail and the boy had damn good ears. Hell, Kakashi's temper was dangerously close to that same point and he didn't care half as much about what happened to the girl as Nar did. But Kakashi realized he needed to stomp down his anger if they didn't want things to blow up before they made it back to Konoha. He knew all too well that if anything were to happen to the girl before they returned home and handed her over to Tsunade-sama, Nar would get the blame for it, no matter who actually did it or caused it. When they stopped to make camp for the night, Sakura did as she usually did and sat near the center of the clearing, doing nothing to help set things up while Nar erected her tent for her. Kakashi had once complained to Nar about how he was always setting up her tent for her and Naruto had explained it was bad enough that her tent was bright pink. But did Kakashi really want her to set it up herself given her feelings about dirt in the wild? Nar had told Kakashi that he set it up for her because although she didn't know how to set it up, she would place it in a spot guaranteed to be seen by anyone traveling through the area and that included enemies who were actually trying to find them. It was the same thing with the other chores involved with setting up or breaking down a ninja camp. She simply did not know or care to learn how to do it correctly. As soon as he had it set up, she complained about where he had placed it, but disappeared inside to freshen herself rather than be available for any of the dirtier camp chores. Not unusual behavior for her since she had gotten a swelled head as the apprentice of the Gotham Hokage and legendary medic Nin of the Sen. She thought it appropriate that, since Naruto was the lowest ranked member of Team 7, that he should wait on her hand and foot. And there was no way she would ever believe Nar might actually outrank her both socially and shinobi-wise. But everyone in Team 7 knew why Nar did her share of the camp chores and Sai helped him whenever he could. The two older men refused to enable her uselessness, but they did keep watch over the boys as they did the chores. Nar, with Sis' help, got a fire going and being the best cook out of them all, fixed dinner for the group. Everyone noticed he did not either take a plate to Sakura or call her out to get her own. She, who couldn't so much as boil an egg without scorching it, would have eaten every bite while doing nothing but complain over the poor flavor and quality of his meal, no matter what it was that he made, so no one really missed her presence. They sat around the fire for a couple hours after the two teens took care of the after-dinner chores, and then Nar disappeared into the tent he would share with Kakashi. Kakashi told Yamato to divide the watch among the four guys and to make damn sure Sakura did not take a shift. He also told Yamato to keep an eye on her, and if she tried to leave the camp for any reason, to notify him so she could be followed. If she so much as left her tent, he wanted to know about it. Kakashi said he would tell Nar, but he'd leave it to Yamato to tell Sai. Then he went into the tent he shared with Naruto to find the teen staring at the ceiling of the tent. He sighed and lay down beside his blonde. He pulled Nar to him and stroked his back, telling the teen, "Sleep, Nar, it'll be over soon. Just get some sleep now." He stayed awake just long enough to be sure Nar actually did go to sleep before he drifted off himself. He knew he could trust Yamato to make sure they were safe as they slept. Yamato concealed his puzzlement since always before Kakashi had insisted the Pinkett take a watch shift, as well as he told Sai they would take the first half of the night watch. Nar and Kakashi would have the second half so Naruto could watch the sunrise. Watching that usually calmed the teen, but he knew both the older members of Team 7 were extremely angry with Sakura for some reason. Clues were dropping right and left, though, and he somehow had a feeling he really didn't want to know what she had done to upset the pair so much. Logic was telling him it had something to do with whatever had happened the last time she had taken a watch. But for the life of him, he did not know what that could have been. Nor was he inclined to ask. Asking could very well turn painful in a hurry for the one doing the asking, and he just wasn't that into pain. At about 10, Sakura did leave her tent to go for a walk along the perimeter of the campground. Yamato made a wood clone to follow her at a distance to make sure of what she was doing, choosing not to awaken Kakashi until the Pinkett actually did leave the camp. Luckily, she chose not to leave the safety of the camp and made her way back to her tent. The next day, they were up before the sun. Nar had been unable to settle, and so he had stirred up the embers and fixed breakfast for everyone while Kakashi woke the others. Sai took down his tent and Sakura's while Yamato told Kakashi about Sakura's late night walk. Of course, Sakura was complaining the whole time Sai was taking down her tent since she was still in it and refusing to come out, but all of them were used to this from her, and Sai just kept busting down the tent while she scrambled to get herself dressed and ready to move out. She complained about the early horn, the rush when it was unnecessary since they weren't due back yet, but made sure she got some of the freshest of the food, though Nar glared at her for it. Kakashi just laid a hand on his leg, and Nar kept his mouth shut when Sakura sneered at them both. "If you wanted to be perverted, sensei, you could have left the tents up so the rest of us could get some decent sleep. Do your perverted crap in private. I don't want to watch it, and I am sure neither Sai nor Yamato do either," she said. "Just because you're abnormal doesn't mean the rest of us are." Kakashi scooted closer to Nar as the boy tried to eat his meal. Nar leaned his head on Kakashi's shoulder as he poked at his food with his chopsticks. That told the Jun the boy was getting really upset with her constant harping on them both. Kakashi narrowed his eyes. If she forced Naruto to abandon his food. Ma, Sakura said Kakashi a rough burr to the normally placid tones. "From where I'm sitting, it appears you're the abnormal one. I am not perverted. Sensei, you forget I am engaged to marry Shino." An audible snap brought everyone's attention to Nar. With that one comment, Kakashi knew exactly Why Naruto was so extremely ticked off with Sakura. Kakashi hadn't thought about the ramifications of Sakura's bad act upon the village, but clearly Naruto had. And with his bugs, Shino would know immediately what Sakura had done. Whether he would know who it had been with was not something Kakashi had any clue of, but he also knew it wasn't important if the teen knew that information. Kakashi slipped the broken sticks out of Naruto's hand, replacing them with his own. Yamato grinned, hiding his fear as he ate. The snapping of the chopsticks had told Yamato how close Sakura was to crossing a line that should never be crossed if one wanted to live. Let's just break the camp and get going. He prayed silently as he watched Naruto force some of the food down his throat. This was a very bad situation, he thought. Nar was walking a very fine line right now. And if Sakura kept her behavior up, there wasn't going to be enough of her left to bury in a shoebox. If Nar didn't snap and kill her, he would, especially if the Pinkett kept taking digs at them the way she was. Yes, Nar and Kakashi were close. But they did not behave in a perverted manner as she suggested. When in public, they were more brotherly in their actions and body language. Family. To anyone but Sakura, that was to her. Every touch between them, whether deliberate or accidental, was a sexual one, and therefore deviant and twisted. He nudged Sai and saw the pale boy nod gravely. It was time to intervene before all hell broke loose on Earth again. Sai made his opinion clear by playing the game. Naruto had taught him that he loosely called Thea Inoue Sakura game. It was a game they all played to a degree whenever Sakura was too and someone was getting annoyed with her. Usually that person wasn't Nar, but just because it was now didn't mean they wouldn't drive the Pinkett crazy on his behalf. Hell, they'd drive her beyond crazy if he let them, simply because he was the one annoyed with her this time. The guys all knew it was a game and she was the only one who didn't know she was playing. Sai job was asking questions of a sexual nature which annoyed the hell out of Sakura, as there was no way in hell she could believe he actually knew exactly what he was asking and referring to. No one would even try to answer for him, knowing he really didn't need the questions answered since he was not half as innocent as she thought he was. But by not answering, it gave him room to play the affronted innocent who really was just trying to figure things out. Sakura kept trying to get Sai to shut up, but every time she did, Yamato would say something, or behind her back, either Naruto or Kakashi would do something that would have Sai asking another question. And so it went until they got back to the village late the following day. Anytime either Kakashi or Nar would start glaring at nothing, Sai would start the game and she'd forget about them to concentrate on him. It wasn't really all that easy for Sai, but for Nar, he'd do it. Nar had saved him from being a mindless drone, and that was worth the annoyance of being harped at by a walking talking carnival treat. They reached Konoha and Nar went straight towards the tower without needing any prompting from anyone in the group. Sakura tried to peel away, and for the first time in 3 days, Naruto looked directly at her. No, you can have another pretty fest with your tub and mirror after we see the go dime. There was nothing nice in his words, and the amount of ice in his eyes would freeze the polar caps should they be in the process of thawing. Several people moving about the area froze as they heard his words and tone. In shock, those people stopped their current activities and turned to look wide-eyed and open-mouthed at the Neo Team 7. Every one of them paled as they realized the Jinchuriki was blisteringly angry, and eyes grew wider in pure terror as they realized he was angry with the girl of his team. Everyone made themselves scarce, gathering their precious people to them as they fled, not wanting to be anywhere in the neighborhood if things came to blows. You don't run this team, Nar, and I am tired of following your orders as if you're actually in charge, she snapped. You will come with the team for the first time since this mission began. You will do as you are supposed to, he said, anger making his voice vibrate in a cold burr. Kakashi blinked but stepped in before Sakura could try to pummel Naruto. The mood he was in, she would get hurt from the minute she swung the first fist. He's right, Sakura. Report first, bath second, said Kakashi, no longer trying to cover his own anger. He knew things had reached a point where he would hurt her as soon as she gave him a reason. Sakura might have been dense as a granite stone, but she did know her team captain and Naruto were beyond pissed. But all right, I'll come. But I don't see why it takes all of us to tell her we failed again. It's not like you even try to keep your boyfriend under control. If you'd teach him better, Sasuke would be with us now, she groused. Stupid damn baka. One of these days, you're going to learn to listen to your betters and do as you're told. I told you to wait. I told you we didn't need to rush home. But would you listen? Hell no. You just had to rush us home. Kami damned idiot. Sai looked at Yamato for explanation and Yamato just shrugged as everyone fell into formation around Sakura. Both Sai and Yamato knew, without being told, there would be hell to pay if the Pinkett slipped away before they reached the tower in Tsunade-sama's office. Kakashi was the senior officer, but when it came to the triad of Naruto, Sakura, and Kakashi, Yamato knew not to get involved or all of them would turn on him. He also knew Nar was the one that actually made the decisions regarding Sakura. Because she was one of his protected people, no one would move against her without checking with him first to be sure he understood why she was being disciplined or restricted. The halls cleared in front of and around them as the people inside got a feel for the anger radiating off both Naruto and Kakashi. No one wanted anything to do with a pissed-off Jinchuriki, and most could not remember ever seeing the copy nin that pissed off. Sakura's complaints were an ongoing drone like the buzzing of a horse fly in the background compared to the angry buzz of their rage. And it was rage, pure, unadulterated rage, and nothing else coming from the copy nin and his housemate. In her office, Tsunade took one look at the group and immediately knew something was wrong. She almost shivered from the chill emanating from them as she watched the group spread out. Sakura was angry and pouting, but that was normal behavior for her when she was forced to report after a long mission in the wilds without being allowed to go bathe first. Sai stood near Yamato, away from the triad of the others. She noted neither Kakashi nor Nar were standing anywhere near Sakura either. But it wasn't where everyone stood. That told her something was dreadfully wrong here. It was the fact that Nar, who normally had an emotional control to rival any Inu, was clearly showing the fact that he was controlling his emotions. Nar just didn't do that. Shared a look with Shizune and saw her assistant nod. She had picked up on it also. Both women gulped. Nar was pissed. And while that was definitely a bad thing, a very bad thing, it was only made worse by the obvious sign that Kakashi shared his anger. She looked at Yamato and Sai again. If they could be said to be expressing any emotion, it would be weariness and fear coupled with emotional exhaustion. That told Tsunade whatever was wrong had been escalating for a few days now, and the two had been doing their best to defuse the situation. Could it be that Nar and Kakashi had suffered their first disagreement during a mission? Couples did argue and fight from time to time, even ones as close as these two, but then she looked at the known duo of the team and realized they weren't angry with each other. Kakashi was standing too close to Nar for them to have been fighting with each other. So, who were they angry with? She narrowed her eyes as she looked once more towards her pouting apprentice. If that girl was the reason her two best and most well-known ninja wanted to kick some serious backsides. She glared but kept her voice civil as she snapped out, "Report." Sakura opened her mouth to tell her version of events, but Naruto cut her off. "Sakura, shut up," he said in a voice of brittle ice, confirming Sununade's thoughts. Shock had Sakura doing as she was told. Asunade looked once again at Shizune. A simple look told the apprentice and assistant to be ready to interfere should things get out of control here. Shizune nodded and slipped into her opening stance. Nar gave the report in a concise voice that held all emotion at bay. He did well until he came to the event that had crossed the line for both Kakashi and him. We were one full day of travel from No Sato when our group had one more encounter with Sasaki Tam. At this point, no matter how hard he tried, he could not keep his anger from showing in his voice or posture. Ice dripped from his words with all the freezing ability of permafrost. Kakashi stepped away from the wall and put one hand on Naruto's shoulder in as nonchalant a manner as possible. His little orange book was nowhere in sight. That fact alone told this was the crux of the report. Sai and Yamato both got an inkling of what had occurred. Now, the body language of their teammates confirmed this was what had been tearing the team apart for the last few days. The draining of color from Sakura's face as well as the ice in Naruto's voice and the tension in Kakashi's form added to the fact that they had no idea of this run-in at all. Made them both wonder why they had interfered at all instead of just letting the duo pound the underscore out of her. Without meaning to say anything, Yamato heard himself question the statement. But we didn't have an encounter. Then Naruto, he looked again at his teammates. Sai was looking slightly confused, indicating he knew nothing of it either. Kakashi was looking sad and angry. Sakura was paper white and startled. But Nar was coldly furious. Did we? He finished weakly. Hi, it was in the hour before dawn and Sakura's watch when Sasuke entered the perimeter of our camp. I was getting ready to answer her alarm, but she never gave it. I held myself ready to answer the alarm and defend her if necessary from whatever he tried, but instead she complied with his wishes. She endangered our team by doing as he wished her to. Sakura got angry and snarled. I did not endanger our team. Nar, you did. You let the enemy just waltz up to you. Let him have his way. He's not our enemy. She screamed. We're trying to rescue him so we can help him fight Orochimaru's control. Orochimaru is dead. Sasuke TM is not under his control any longer, if he ever was. But you did endanger your team. You didn't even spare a thought for where his team was or what they might be doing. All you cared about was getting his fully hard between your legs. Check her. She's pregnant. Sasaki left as soon as he had concluded his business with her. And lucky for her, screwing her seems to have been the only reason he came to the camp. When breakfast was over, I led the team back here as quickly as I could given her lack of stamina, endurance, and speed so she could be tended to. Weakly Sakura snarled. I may have had relations with him, but that doesn't mean I'm stupid enough to get pregnant. Nar turned blazing eyes on the girl. You did not have relations, you stupid girl. He used you for and not even really for that. Hopping it in, pumping back and forth a few times is not having. It's being used as a bank. And your jutsu is not as strong as his. You are with child, his child. He will go face his brother in 1 month as he told me he will. That is why he chose to use the jutsu that he knew would result in a pregnancy on you. He knew you would be eager to risk the lives of your team to get his child. He was correct. It never entered your mind you could get what you wanted, at the cost of our lives while you were taking your pants off for him to deliver his seed. And you did take off your own pants for him. I did not endanger the team. She screamed. Nar walked over and slapped her. He hit her so hard she almost fell over, and the force left her cheek red and swelling. I told you to shut up. You want to discount the value of my life, Sakura. That is nothing new and I am more than used to it. But you endangered Sai, and Yamato-sensei as well. You had no call to do that just because Sasaki TM was lying to you and telling you what you've wanted to hear since you were 9. But he wasn't even doing that. He didn't say a damned word to you. All he did was walk up to you with it poking out in front of him and you gave him access. But this time there is no going back. Sakura, you crossed the line when you gambled with Sensei's life, too. And let's not even go into your betrayal of our other comrade. He stepped away from her with a sneer and back to Kakashi's side. Kakashi wrapped an arm over his shoulders and waited as Sakura tried to defend herself. He wasn't lying to me, she screamed. Aid closed her eyes for a second, praying to Kami it wasn't true as she saw Shizune stepping closer to Sakura. She looked to Kakashi for backup of Naruto's report. Though in their own way, Sakura's words had told her it was nothing but the truth. Kakashi nodded and began his own report. What Nar says is true. She did engage in intercourse with Sasaki during her watch over the camp. Although I can't really call it intercourse since he seems to have done most of the work himself before he ever entered the camp. He did come solely with the intention of making a sperm donation. Though since he simply walked up to her with it all ready to go, she did take her own pants off and even spread her legs for him to enter the bank. He backed her up against the tree she'd chosen for her shift and pumped into her for a few minutes, before pulling back out and using her shirt tail, which she is still wearing, to clean himself. Who knows which girl he was actually even thinking of as he made his deposit, or even if he was thinking of a girl at all. When he was done, he left. He never even kissed her. There wasn't any noise or anything to indicate it was anything more than a deposit of his sperm in a willing repository. He paused to try and regain control over himself, knowing he had just shredded any hope of dignity she had, but also knowing it was nothing more than the simple truth. Sasaki had done exactly as he said he had, and she had let him. Finally, he continued his report. I think we would have understood and forgiven her if she'd thought to check on the camp after he left, but she didn't. She fondled herself instead, making enough noise in the process to let any ninja in the area know exactly where we were. Then she redressed herself without bothering to clean herself first. She's still wearing the same clothes even though we went to the inn at Hosoto to give her a chance to clean up and change. I know, as does Nar. She took a bubble bath there and made full use of all the facilities the inn provides for nin who've been in the field for a long time. All of them except for the laundry machines. She assumed we would not know of it since we were supposed to be sleeping. But Nar is never asleep when she is on watch, and because he isn't, neither am I. However, even if we had been, we would have known about it anyway. She interrupted to snarl. Yeah, right. Like I'm supposed to believe that when you both engage in the same thing. Kakashi turned a deadly cold look on her as he bit out. As a matter of fact, Sakura, Nurid, and I do not engage in sexual activities on a mission unless the mission calls for it. None of our missions as a team to date have. So, no, we don't. You are the only person on our team who has had L during a mission, and both he and I know you did. We can actually smell it on you as we could hear it when Sasaki entered your bank vault. You debased yourself at what could have been the cost of our lives. His scorn was clear as he turned his attention back to Sununade, cutting himself off, knowing if he said anything more, he would only grow even more angry with her. When everyone was up and fed, we moved out with Naruto in the lead. She argued and tried to make us take a day of rest. She even went so far as to try and fake an injury to make us stop. I honestly believe she wanted us to stick around just in case Sasaki wanted to bring his team and fight us one more time. And she tried to blackmail me because I gave Naruto a massage in the hotel room at Hosoto to calm him down. Thinks. Every time I touch him, I am molesting him and I'm tired of it. Even if I had been doing such a thing instead of trying to save her worthless life, she has no right to question what I choose to do, let alone attempt to blackmail me with it. The night we left Hosto, I told Yumoto not to give her a watch shift of her own, as obviously we cannot trust her with our rest. She did none of the camp chores, including setting up her own tent. But at 10, when the camp was settled and Yamato was on watch, she went for a walk around the perimeter, even though she has been told more than once that is not safe to do, and that should she wish to do so, she is to tell someone and get another to follow or at least accompany her. Given her skill level and lack of general awareness of her surroundings, she is unfit to defend herself. Though she has trained under you, she refuses to practice and keep her skills sharp. And both Naruto and I have extremely strong enemies who will not care. She is a council woman's offspring, but she did neither since she believes herself stronger and more capable than Nar. However, even he would not go for a walk late at night alone around our perimeter, where he knows the enemy can and will spot him if they are out there. He had not looked at Sakura once as he tore her behavior and skills to ribbons. He looked Sunsunade straight in the eye instead while still maintaining his physical contact with Nar. I want her off my team. I am tired of dealing with her crap and it has been a long time since I ever saw anything of worth in her. Nar is the only reason I have not requested her removal before. No other team will have her, as I have already gone looking more than once for a different placement for her. So I am well aware this will mean her removal from the ninja forces. But Nar is finally fed up with her and I do not wish to see her ever again. I have killed people for less than she did. We all have. Do not even think to make me keep her around us any longer. Shizune discreetly finished her physical examination of Sakura. Before Sununade could say anything, she gave her the results in front of everyone. Like Kakashi, she did not bother to try and spare Sakura's dignity or reputation. Nar is correct. Shishui, there is a jutsu in effect on her womb, and she has recently engaged in intercourse. From the state of her vagina, it is clear she was not forced, but it is also clear she was not prepared before being penetrated. Therefore, my conclusion is that the man whose stick she rode did indeed come prepared and found her willing and waiting. She was not raped. Scratches on her back are consistent with her complying while standing up against a tree or other rough surface. Their mission was a 2-week mission, and no mention has been made of needing to enter a house of Ilroy to track their quarry. And since no one has denied it was Sasaki she engaged her body with, we must conclude she did in fact sell out the safety of her team to become his repository, since he is listed as a missing nin in all the bingo books to date and has been for years now. She will be lucky if she is not labeled a traitor for this action as any other girl from the village would be. Nar looked Sunsunade straight in the eye and said, all the way home, I kept waiting for her to realize what she did. I kept waiting for her to apologize, or at least try to acknowledge she did something she should not have done. She not only never did, but she compounded her own bad behavior by insulting the rest of the team and implying we are all guilty of her own behavior. None of us are. I withdraw my protection from her. Whoever this is, she is not the girl I knew in school, and I will no longer offer her the shelter of my arm or reputation. Everyone gasped except for Sakura, who sneered. Like, I need your protection, Baka. I'm stronger than you are. I always have been. I'll beat the living out of you for even daring to imply I need your protection. She balled up her fists and marched towards him. Everyone wanted to grab her, but a signal from Sununade held them all in place. It was time Nar showed her what everyone else already knew. She was not and never had been stronger than he was. Nar gave a feral grin as he watched Sakura approaching him. She swung with her right fist. He caught it and held it as she lashed out with her left leg. Nar used her own arm as a counterbalance to avoid the leg spinning her in a tight circle. She swung with her left fist and he caught it as well. Holding both her fists and applying pressure, he growled, "My turn, bitch." With a carefully calculated blow, he slammed his forehead into hers, snapping her head back and letting go of her fists at the same time. The sudden release of her hands caused her to fall backwards onto her butt. Nar didn't even bother to follow up on the headbutt. He simply turned his back on the fuming girl and stepped back to Kakashi and leaned on his chest. Kakashi wrapped his arms around the blonde without even sparing a glance at Sakura. Like I said, I want her off my team. I don't care what happens to her anymore. Nar is through protecting her and doing her work for her. He's done covering for her. And I was done with that crap when Sasaki left. But never again will I take that into the field. If I do not expct her home again. She won't make it. I do not suffer traitors in my camp when I am sleeping or at my back when I am fighting. All right. Gave Sakura a look of such sadness it almost penetrated the fog of anger in Sakura's brain. Almost. Sakura, I wish you had used your head this time. She summoned Anko from interrogations. In the dead silence, Sakura's mumbled, I was using my head. He went back to his camp to tell those freaks he was going home. If we had stayed where we were, he would be here with us now. But no, Nar doesn't want my Sasaki to come back. So, we had to rush out and leave him for them to find again. Those freaks have my Sasuke now. I seduced him and I know he enjoyed himself. So he was only going to tell them he was going with me. But I left him a trail so he can come home again. I know he'll be here in a few days. Then he'll break Baka's spell over Sensei and we'll be happy again. Baka will be back in his place as my Sasaki-kun's measuring stick and I will not have to worry about the trouble Baka attracts hurting me all the time. Sensei will train my Sasaki so he can get stronger and live up to his true potential. We'll be happy when everything is the way it was. No one said anything. There was no point in saying anything more. A few minutes passed and then Anko was there. Take Sakura into custody. She is to be questioned as to what information, if any, she may have gained off of Uchiha Sasaki. Treat her with care as we do know he used a jutsu on her womb and indications are she will bear his child. I do not want the child lost. Keep her incommunicado and in a secure room, but do periodic medical checks of her condition. We must know as soon as possible the reasoning behind the womb jutsu. Nar says she is to have the Uchiha's child and I have no reason to disbelieve him. Anko nodded her understanding of her orders and took Sakura away for questioning. The team finished their reports and left the tower. Yumoto and Sai both fully understood just why what Sakura had done was so very bad. It would have been bad enough if she had not known Sasaki was running with a new group of missing nin, but she did know. It only made it worse that the people she had endangered for that action were two of her oldest comrades, and one of them someone she had known since her pre-academy days. For her to endanger them the way she had was not something they would ever get over. They headed for the nearest bar and proceeded to get themselves totally shit-faced. Drunk as it now slammed home to them how very close they had courted death. During all the missions she had been a part of their team. Both knew Kakashi and Nar would have done everything in their power to keep them all alive, but it just wasn't the point. The point was they should have been able to trust her with their rest, but she hadn't been worthy of that trust, and they could have awoken to find themselves face to face with the Shinigami instead. It was a sobering thought for both of them. Silently, Sununade ordered Kakashi to keep an eye on Nar, which he had planned to do. Anyway, he followed Nar to their dwelling and watched as the blonde dropped his pack on the floor of their room. It's safe, Nar. You can drop the henge now. No one is here, Kakashi said. A sigh and a shimmer later, and Nar stood in her orange and black suit as much a female as everyone thought she was a male. Thank Kami, she said as she ran her fingers over her head, scratching the itches out from the way it had to be bound up. While she was in the village in her hang form, she turned to where Kakashi was watching her stretch the kinks out. He loved watching her stretch. Every time they returned home. Giving him a quirky smile, she asked, enjoying the show? Always, he replied, taking his mask off. He didn't need it when it was just him and Nar. He stripped her of her jacket at the same time he pulled his vest off. They fell onto the bed and enjoyed the fact that they were together and safe from harm. Well, as safe as Nar could ever be. Now that they were home again, he could help her relax even more, and maybe they would both lose a little of their anger with Sakura over her thoughtlessness. Stroking her body, he reveled in the sensation of finally being able to sat his desires. One of the things they had found out when the old Hokage died was that he had been powering a very strong henge on Nar. The henge concealed from everyone, including her, that she was in fact a girl and not the boy she thought she was. Kakashi had wondered why, when he and several other Jun had gone to assist the Hokage, the old man had insisted Kakashi go to where Naruto was and prepared to shield the child against all observers. His confusion lasted only until the old man died and the henge fell. Then he understood immediately why he, rather than anyone else, had been sent to her side. Luckily, the only ones who had seen her were the team from Sand, and they were so grateful for what she did for Gar. They would never reveal her secret to anyone. He got the exhausted Naruto to Jera, and as soon as the old lecher saw the girl, he understood immediately what had occurred. They had hidden Nar at Kakashi's place, and both went to make immediate plans for her protection. At that point in time, there were only 5 people other than the Sand trio who knew for certain Naruto was a girl and not the boy she had grown up as. Jiraiya, because it had fallen to him to take her away from Konoha and get her used to the big secret and why it was safer for her to be a boy. Sununade knew, as did Shizune, because they took care of her medical needs and saw to it all her questions about being a female. That would have made Kakashi want to crawl out of his skin and die before answering, and would have had Jiraiya answering incorrectly or pervertedly were answered honestly. They also took care of purchasing those things girls need, that no boy can ever get if he doesn't have a girl in his life. Not without taking A whole load of crap are starting a round of rumors they would never be free from. Anyway, Shizune had worked with the girl Naruto on her taijutsu and throwing, so if ever the henge should drop in battle, she would not be caught flat-footed. Jiraiya and Shizune had put her through more than one battle where Jiraiya had deliberately dropped her henge while she fought Shizune just to make sure she would think nothing of it and automatically adjust her throws, punches, and kicks for the new form. Once Jiraiya had returned Naruto to Konoha and taken on the council over her welfare, Naruto had moved in with Kakashi for her own safety. Kakashi had cleaned out Naruto's old apartment of everything he thought Naruto would want, and moved it into his place for safekeeping while the teen was gone. He didn't know if it would be a male Nar who returned to the village or a female one. But he knew, either way Naruto was no longer safe to live alone. Nor did he want Naruto to continue to live in that dump. Everyone in the village thought they were involved in a homosexual relationship, which didn't bother either of them in the least since they knew they weren't, and they each knew exactly why they couldn't tell anyone the truth. The homosexual thing had come out when Kakashi got tired of the whispered comments of horny teenage girls and told them to go away. He flat out told the girls, in no uncertain terms, Naruto was taken and always had been. It was nothing more than the truth. But the girls didn't know that Kakashi had been engaged to Naruto in an arranged marriage on the day of her birth so that she would have a safe and stable relationship where she was not sought after like a prize on a shelf in a carnival booth. For her inheritance, her parents had set it up as soon as they knew they were to have a little girl and knew she would be in great demand by guys and clans who wished to use her to improve their standing in the world. Those people would not care in the least about Nar or what was in her best interest. All they would see was a possible way of improving their own clan or family. To them, the demon in her seal might possibly be enough to grant her children a new bloodline, allowing them to propel themselves from a mere family to clan status. Add to the mix the fact that she was the sole survivor of a Hokage, and attaching her to an established family would bring prestige and honor not deserved to whichever family or clan managed the feat. Both Minato and Kosa had understood that, but then they weren't impressionable children either. Both understood politics and human nature. So by choosing her husband themselves, they had at least protected her from being used in that manner. When Nar had returned and the girls had gotten a good look at him, they had formed a fan club. The village girls had been at a loss when the last had taken off, leaving one of their number in what could have been a very bad position. So when Nar had returned, they took another look at him. For the first time, they actually saw the blonde as he was. And they liked what they saw. They liked it a lot. The fact that he was polite and always cheerful with the girls so long as they obeyed the boundaries he set did nothing to deter them. Those girls who breached his boundaries were set upon by the rest of the club and taught the error of their ways very quickly. Nar himself had set the boundaries and treated the girls like people, never disrespecting them nor encouraging them in their pursuit of him. He listened to what they had to say and did his best to subtly encourage them to look elsewhere for a boyfriend. One by one, he built the girls up and sent them off to pursue the life they really wanted for themselves as soon as he found out what it was they really wanted to do. Kakashi understood what Naruto was doing, but it still pissed him off that he couldn't take Nar anywhere without a horde of girls following them everywhere they went. The only one that surprised him was Hinata. She not only followed Nar everywhere, much like the fangirls did, but she helped Kakashi get rid of the tail when he needed alone time with Nar. However, she herself never made a move on him or requested anything from him outside the occasional spar or assistance with her jutsu. Kakashi had watched enough of those meetings to know what she asked for from Naruto was exactly what she wanted. She had no sexual interest in Nar, and it puzzled him as to why she would devote so much time to following him everywhere he went. A conversation with her revealed she had known since they were 8 that Naruto wore a henge, and it hadn't taken her long into her teenage years to realize what the henge was for or why Naruto would need it more than anyone else. She had decided then to make sure he always had willing help should help be needed. Hinata told Kakashi it was just what a true friend did, and she was Naruto's true friend. But after Kakashi had finally gotten fed up with the fan club and told them all to go find another idol, he had taken Naruto and Hinata Tasanadi and growled at her to just perform the marriage ceremony for them, as he was damn tired of waiting through a mass of horny teenage girls every time Nar left the apartment. Hinata had laughed at him and agreed that the duo did need to be married before Kakashi killed someone for coming on to Naruto. And so in a very private ceremony witnessed by Jiraiya as Naruto's godfather and Hinata as a member of the elite families of the village, and Shizune, Naruto and Kakashi were married by Tsunade. Nar was 13 then, which was young but allowable since it was arranged by her parents at her birth, and since she was a ninja. No one in the village questioned their relationship. Ninja were known to take love and wherever they could get it, so long as they were not on a mission, though there were missions where having was part of the life. They worked hard and played even harder, but they were never really relaxed or off guard from the moment they took to the field, and that was as soon as they put on their headbands. So it was understood that whenever they were open about an affair they were involved in, it was worth your life to express disapproval over it. If the couple themselves didn't make you pay for it, then chances were good their friends would. Their lives were too short for normal rules, and given the unique qualities that made them successful as ninja, children of established or acclaimed ninja were highly sought after even in large clans such as the Hyuga. Even a child who claimed a missing nin as a parent was not considered to be a bad thing, so long as they were being raised carefully in a ninja village. After all, it did take some skill to get a listing in a bingo book, and the higher the bingo book ranking, the more welcome the child was. Of course, it went without saying, the higher the rank of the criminal parent, the more watched the child would be, but the child was still a welcome addition to a ninja village. The only thing that surprised anyone about their relationship was that the Hokage had not made Kakashi leave a deposit of his seed at the fertility bank for a future generation of Hideki. No one was really surprised that she did not require it of Nar. After all, everyone now knew of the demon behind Naruto's seal, and no one knew how that demon might twist or manipulate the seed of the team. That was the one thing the council had done. While Jiraiya and Naruto had been gone to get Tsunade and return her to the Hokage position that none of them had been happy over, the council had rescinded the old Hogue's law so the truth could be revealed and told the village they could now tell their children the truth of Naruto's existence. They were thinking they would gain the support of the younger generation in denouncing the teen. They had been shocked and surprised to find just the opposite had occurred, as the kids Naruto's age had taken on their suppositions and blasted them for their ignorance 7 ways from Sunday. The teens had pretty much called all of them stupid ignorant fools who did not deserve the sacrifice of the Yandaime, let alone Naruto's sacrifice if they were that damn stupid. The teens had also taken the younger children to task when they heard them blindly parroting their parents and asking them to think things through. In each case, the teens had told the children how seals worked. Demonstrations of how storage seals worked rebounded around the village until all the children understood the concept. Glasses of water and Pebbles finished the task of showing the stupid just how very stupid they were. And, in the academy storage, scrolls became standard teaching material in the introduction to Seal's lectures. Even Sakura blasted her coffin over the issue, pointing out her stupidity and telling her if she wanted to despise the blonde for being stupid or loud. That was one thing, but to blame him because he was keeping a demon at bay, which he clearly was since the village was still standing and not one person had been killed by the demon in his lifetime, made her the idiot. Haruno Kiku had sat there blinking in shock as her normally compliant and gullible daughter called her an idiotic fool and very logically pointed out exactly why she was that same idiotic fool. Sakura was righter than she knew. After everything the council had done or authorized be done to the Jingury, they were damn lucky the village was still standing. And if Nar were half the demon they claimed he was, the place would not be. The council would be able to point to headstones of people killed in the last 13 years due to the demon, instead of missions or from breaking the Sandame's law about the Jingariki. Kiku had over the next few months come to change her opinion on the blonde boy. And so by the time Naruto returned to the village with the new Hokage in tow, there was no doubt the younger generation knew Naruto was more important to their safety than Sasaki had ever been, and exactly why he was more important. Though Sakura did still believe Sasaki was more important than Naruto was since he had a dojutsu. And demon seal or not, Nar didn't. The older generation still hated him, but more were ashamed of themselves over their hatred due to the badgering of their children and grandchildren who never relented in their persecution of them. The sensei of the teens had just stood back smiling proudly as their genin and chunin took on the stupidity of the village and beat everyone over the head with it until no one could deny it anymore. But all of this had been revealed in only a few weeks. Jiraiya and Naruto had only stayed in the village for a few weeks because Jiraiya didn't think Naruto was mature enough to be a proper wife for Kakashi. And he also felt that the change in the village's perception of the teen was too drastic for the kid to handle well. So they left again as quickly as Jiraiya and Tsunade could set it up. Kakashi didn't like it, but he did understand. Nar needed time to grow up and fully accept the changes. The only thing that had been established between them was that Nar, male form or female form, had no problem living with Kakashi. She had told the Junin even before the henge had dropped, she had felt a connection to him that confused her, but she wouldn't explain what she meant by that at all. As for the villagers, their feelings towards the teen were fluctuating wildly due to the actions of Uchiha Sasaki. Part of them felt it was Naruto's fault the Uchiha had fled the village to take training under the Snake Sen, but yet there were others who felt the boy could not have known the thoughts in Sasaki's head and therefore was not in any way responsible for what he had done. Demon seal or not, he wasn't a Yamanaka as Ino and Enonoi had pointed out more than once, and therefore mind readating was not something he could do. They were also divided over whether or not Naruto had done his best to return the dark-haired boy. All in all though, it was sending Naro a very confused message, and the teen was slowly going bonkers trying to figure things out. They were gone for close to 3 years because Jiraiya didn't want her to return until she was grown enough to be the woman Kakashi needed her to be. Married or not, Nar was still a child in many ways, and Kakashi needed a grown-up as his wife. He had taken her to Wave and had Tsunami continue her education in how to be a female, and then he had taken her to Snow so Yuki could refine her behavior even more. He doubted Kakashi would ever let Naro take an espionage mission where she would need to be herself. But still, He wanted his goddaughter to know all the proper social behavior, no matter the situation. He personally would beat the crap out of anyone foolish enough to demean his goddaughter by sending her on an infiltration mission as herself. But he knew as often as he was away from the village, he more than likely would not learn of it until it had already taken place. That wouldn't save the fool who ordered it. But still, it had taken Kakashi a few months to figure out what the connection must have been that Nar had mentioned. But once he had, he'd been on cloud 9 waiting for word of their return. It was a very happy copy nin who saw them re-enter the village. He had followed them to the tower wanting to hear about their adventure as well as making sure she came home as soon as she was released to do so. Jera had simply smirked at them, knowing exactly why the copy nin was coming with them. That night, Kakashi had given Naruto a very private and heartfelt welcome back greeting of his own. A routine had been established so that Nar could be herself in the apartment and they could have a normal relationship without having to fear discovery by others. But outside of the apartment, she continued to be the blonde-headed foxy boy everyone knew of their team. Only Kakashi knew Nar was not a boy, which really said everything about how they felt about Sakura and her ability to not only keep a secret, but her ability to understand why it might be necessary to keep such a secret. Even Yamato and Sai were not told the truth of Nar. Neither Kakashi nor Nar saw any reason to tell them since the henge was damn near impossible to break so long as both were present to keep it active. Even if one was distracted, the other could keep an eye on it. Nar wasn't hanging due to any kind of real fear from the citizens of the village. It was more along the lines of what the world at large did not know. They did not need to know. And so long as the Akatsuki was still active and looking to capture him for his prisoner, there was more reason to keep whatever secrets he could keep from them for as long as possible. But now Kakashi knew whatever Nar might have said about Sakura's behavior on this last mission, her betrayal of him had hurt. Of the entire team, only Kakashi could have hurt the blonde more than her actions had. Nar said Kakashi after they were sated for the moment. How angry are you with Sakura? I know you understand why she did what she did, so I know you aren't really angry at her for giving into her desires. You're right. It isn't that she'd be less than human if she'd been able to refuse him what he wanted given what he was telling her. I do wish she had shown more pride in herself and at least demanded to be treated as a human being, but I do understand why she let him do that to her. I'm angry because she didn't even attempt to secure our safety. And while I can understand her disregard of my life, I cannot and will not feel the same way about her disregard of everyone else. No matter how that is sliced or diced, it is wrong. She didn't even try to check for the presence of his team. And though she said he told her he left his team behind, he said no such thing. He didn't speak to her at all. Kashi, you know damn well he didn't. She had no idea where his team was or what they were doing. And no matter how much she wants to deny it, she does know full well they are his team handpicked by him to aid him in achieving his goal. They are not people assigned to him by Orochimaru or anyone else. He chose them and she knows it. For all she knew, Sasaki was merely distracting her so the team could get to each of us as we were sleeping. I may forgive a lot of crap, Kashi, but someone endangering you like that for such a petty reason as that